We got a big day, boys. A very big patch just dropped. Today, we're going to be going over the torture chamber of screams. I apologize for the way I sound. I do have the flu, unfortunately, so bear with me throughout this video. I did queue in solo just so I can get footage of this one trash monster. The only mechanic that is important regarding the trash is the brainwashed guard. The guard will charge at a target, and if there is a wall when he charges at you, he will collide you with the wall, instantly killing you even if you are a tank. So you just want to make sure that you're facing this trash monster with your back not against the wall. You can also just stun him until he dies. The first boss is just a tank and spank, no real mechanics here. Do keep in mind that when you start the boss fight, the door behind you does close, so make sure everybody is in the room before you actually hit the boss. Once you've killed the boss, he's going to drop a possessed warden's axe on the ground. You'll have a little quest marker above it. One player can interact with it, turning themselves into a shapeshift form of the boss with some abilities. Your 1, 2, and 4 skills will be damaging abilities. You can help your team kill things. And your number 3 ability is used to interact with the objective to get to the next room. Keep in mind that if you try to interact with something, you will unshapeshift, or if you die, you'll unshapeshift. And if that does happen, you can actually just run back to that boss's room and pick up the axe again. At the bottom of that spiral staircase, you're going to notice a wall with some glowing symbols. These are important, and I'll show you how to note these down quickly to help you solve the puzzle. One way is to screenshot this screen, that way you know what the order of these symbols are. The second way is to assign each symbol a letter that they look like. To me, the one on the left looks like an X, the one next to it looks like a T, the third one looks like an R, and the last one looks like a P. Now these symbols will always be the same, just the order that they are in will be different. And what you can do is just type into your party chat those symbols in that order. I'm going to keep the letters in the order on screen just so it's easier to understand the next part of this puzzle. When you enter the room to the left, you're going to clear it up of all the trash monsters. You're also going to go through and just open each one of these cells and kill any of the ads that are inside. This is where the puzzle begins. The player with the axe presses 3. It will allow you to see the letters or the symbols on the wall, and then you need to match them up with the correct order that was on the wall upstairs. This first cell has a R in it, the second cell has a T in it, the third cell has an X in it, and then that leaves the P for the last cell. You can have one player do this, or you can have 4 individual players do this mechanic, but those cells have a button inside on the wall, and you have to press it in the order of the character, the symbol that was upstairs. So upstairs, X was first, meaning that the button in cell 3 needs to be pressed first, and then it was T, so cell number 2, and then it was R, so cell number 1, and then it was P, cell number 4. Once you know which cells to press in what order, you can simply type in chat the number sequence. Just like I did for my party, type it in 3, 2, 1, 4. Once you do that puzzle successfully, it will unlock the door and spawn some ads, letting you continue with the dungeon. This will be the second puzzle of the dungeon. When you click this magic circle in the center, it'll create a giant magic circle and zombies will start to flood the room. The objective here is to kill the zombies within the circle. As they die, their souls will fill up these orbs. You'll see 3 of them in the circle. When the orb gets filled up, it will start to have a gray HP bar, and then when all 3 are filled up, that is when the puzzle is completed. Keep in mind though that once the orb is filled up and has that HP bar, the zombies can actually start to damage it, and if they destroy it, you have to fill it up again. So make sure that once the orbs do fill up, that people are grabbing the zombies off of them. That way you don't have to run through this filling up and emptying them multiple times. Coming into the second mini boss, he does actually have a mechanic, unlike the first guy. The mechanic he has is red and green squares. The red squares are bad, don't stand in those. The green squares are good, do stand in those. When he puts down the red squares, you'll just not be in them, and then after a short period of time, he'll cause these thorns to sprout out of them, dealing damage to you. The green squares are safe zones. He will do this mechanic periodically. Everybody stands in them, doesn't matter which ones. You have to wait until he rains down thorns everywhere. Once he does, you can actually break these thorns and then go into the center where he will have a safety square of green. Don't be like the idiot on the screen and just stand where you are and die. Don't be like him. Kill those thorns, go to the center. If you did die like that person, it is fine. This boss is forgiving. You can just run to that teleport circle and then teleport straight back into the fight. Once you've killed that boss, you'll walk straight back behind him to the guillotine elevator. If you jump into the guillotine hole, it will murder you. So you just have to wait for the blade to come down, and then you could just jump on the blade and it will carry you up to the final boss room. The final boss of the dungeon. Before you do anything, what I would strongly recommend is putting down party pins from the boss to the outside of the arena in ascending order. This will help you a lot throughout the fight. You will need at least 5 pins. If you don't know how to do this, all you gotta do is hold Control on your keyboard and then right click. You'll get a menu and you can set party pins. Please note you could only do this if you are the party leader. Secondly, you want to make sure that you are dodging every dodgeable attack that you can. The Diamond Fury attack and the Circle regular parry attack. This has to do with a building buff on your character that allows you to interact with the mechanic later. And if you take damage from any of these abilities, you will lose the ability to do that mechanic. So, mechanics. The first one the boss does is the spotlight mechanic where he rains down arrows on random players. Once you have that, just move out of the way. It will follow you, so just run in a small little line or a circle where you were to avoid those arrows. The boss will also place blood shards above 3 players' heads. It's recommended these players just be apart from each other. He will shoot a cone AoE, and as long as you just take 1 cone, you will live, so try not to overlap them. This next mechanic is important for your tanks and your healers. For your tanks, they want to make sure they use Da Vinci's protection, and then for your healers, invincible wall with the AoE specialization. The boss will disappear and then cause these red spinning blades to spin around every player. So you just want to spread out a little bit. Before you spread out, you want to make sure your healer buffs everybody with the shield and the tank buffs everybody with Da Vinci's protection. This will cause you to take 0 damage throughout the entire part of this specific mechanic. Following that, the boss is going to select 1 player at random, teleport them to one side of the arena, and then he's going to teleport to the opposite side, and he's going to rush at that player with his scissors. This entire time that player is stunned, and if the boss gets to him while they're still stunned, they will chop them in half and maybe kill them. To remove that stun from that player, the rest of the party needs to get in front of that player, and as the boss gets closer, everybody needs to press Q to block the scissor attack, and then that player who was stunned can now run away. Following that mechanic, the boss will target a player and just start firing these red projectiles at them. That player just needs to stand still, and the tank just needs to intercept those projectiles and stand in the way. Alright, the big mechanic of the fight that those pins are going to be used for, we made earlier. The boss will cause the room to turn into a black swirling smoke, and then he will spawn zombies. At the start of the fight, he will only spawn 3 zombies that will be attached to 3 players. But as his HP gets lower, at about 50%, he will spawn 5 zombies attached to 5 players. The reason why those pins are important is you have to place the zombies in the correct order away from the boss. That way you get a shield and he won't instantly kill you. How do you know what zombies are what number? So remember earlier when I said that you need to dodge all of those fury attacks, the purple diamonds and the purple circles? Every time you block one of those properly, you will get a stacking debuff, which I'll show on screen. At 3 stacks, you can interact with one of the blood canisters at the edge of the room, allowing you to get this open eyeball buff, allowing the entire party to see what number each zombie is. 2 things to note here. If you get hit by one of those diamond fury attacks, it resets that buff counter. Secondly, if you have the blue eyeball buff on your bar, you won't be able to get that red debuff. So if somebody presses that blood canister too late and you extend that buff too long, then it'll kind of mess up the timing of everything. The boss will do 3 checks to check the order of those zombies before he does the mechanic that kills you. The check is this red lightning that will hit the zombies, and if you are in the correct spot, the zombie will latch onto you, hugging you, giving you this big shield. He will do that 3 times, and then he will go into killing you if you are in the wrong spot. With that just being said, the boss checks where the zombies are, not where you are. So if you, for example, are right next to the boss when that phase starts, and your zombie so happened to be number 1, and you ran all the way to the back to hit that canister, and the boss did his check at the same time, he would check that you're correct because the zombie was right next to the boss. That zombie would then just teleport all the way to the edge of the arena and hug you and stun you at the end, not letting you move. And this will cause all of the other 5 people or 4 people to instantly die because there's no way that they can possibly be behind you at that point. So it is highly, highly recommended that either the person who does not have a zombie click the canister, or if you are on canister duty, that you are always at the back. That way, just in case if your zombie was number 1, it doesn't screw up the entire fight. Now, let's say that you messed up, no one has the eyeball to click on the canister. With that lightning check that I just explained, you can position yourself in order and wait for that lightning to hit those zombies and see if they attach to anyone, and then you'll know that number and if you are correct or incorrect, and then you can adjust for 2 more strikes. Hopefully that'll give you enough time to position properly. You might lose 1 or 2 people, but at least you'll have enough people to continue with the fight. There is a cheese to this mechanic. We're not sure if this will be patched, if it's bugged or not. In the Korean version of this fight, if you have 0 canisters, your entire party wipes. And if you have 5 canisters completely full, it's also a wipe. In the global version, the 5 canisters being full will still wipe you. However, not having any canisters will not wipe you. So with that in mind, what you can do is you can open the first canister to see the numbers on the zombies, and you'll get that eyeball buff, the blue buff. And when it gets down to about 10 or 5 seconds, you can click on another canister to refresh that buff back up to 1 minute. And you can just keep doing this the entire fight. That way you'll always have that buff active, and you won't need to worry about dodging those fury attacks and making sure somebody has the eyeball and some people don't, because you'll always have it. The buff the buff being on you allows you to click on the canister, which just refreshes the buff itself again. And there we go. That was your guide to the Torture Chamber of Secrets. I know it was longer than some of the other guides I put out. They have introduced some unique mechanics in this new dungeon, which I personally like. I like newer, more involved mechanics. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, if you did like the video, go ahead and leave it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This was Fate. Hope everybody has a wonderful day.